Okay, today we're going to talk about a fun activity that we can do while we're all sheltering at home for the foreseeable future. So this activity is called sun printing, or more technically, cyanotype prints. So we're going to talk about how you can do this at home. It's a lot of fun. It's completely kid-friendly. So let's get started. So these are some of the things you're going to need to do cyanotypes at home, or we'll just call them sun prints. So you're going to need some paper. I like to use watercolor paper because this stands up to being immersed in water. Stands up to that really well. So we're going to use some watercolor paper. We're going to need a glass bowl of some sort and a foam brush to paint the paper. And I like to use a couple little mixing cups for the next step. We're going to need some chemistry. And the cyanotype chemistry is something you can buy online, and I'm going to show you the link to that later in the video where you can purchase that. I make my own simply because I do this a lot and it's more economical for me. But the chemistry comes in 2 bottles, whether you buy it or you make it. It comes in a chemical A, and it comes in a chemical B. All right? And so to mix the chemistry, all we need to do is mix equal parts of A and B together. So what I'm going to do right now is show you how I do that. So to start with, we pour a little bit of solution A into any kind of little cup. And then we're also going to pour a little bit of solution B into another little cup. And this is just so it's easier to measure them out. When we mix our solution together, that's when we have a light sensitive chemistry that we can coat our papers with. So I like to use some little syringes here, without any needle of course, to measure. So this chemistry goes a long way. You can make a lot of papers with just a little bit of chemistry. So I'm going to actually just measure out, let's say about 4 or 5 milliliters of this chemistry. So this is chemistry A. So I just suck it up in the syringe, and we're just going to go like maybe 5 milliliters. And we squirt it into our little mixing bowl here, okay? So it's very easy because we're going to need exactly the same amount of chemical B. All right? So 5 milliliters of chemical B. All right, so we just squirt it in there just like that. Very easy. Okay, we've got our chemicals in the dish here. I am going to stir it up just so they're well mixed. It's not hard to do. And you can see it's kind of a yellowish color. And then we're going to get out a sheet of our watercolor paper. We can actually just leave it on the pad. If you want, you can actually cut these down to smaller sizes, and I think I'm actually going to do that. So we've got smaller sheets of paper here, and all we're going to do is dip a little bit of chemistry on the end of our foam brush, and you're simply going to paint it onto the paper. So I like to go one direction and then the other direction. And just do this several times until you have a really nice even coat of the solution on the paper. In this particular case, I've chosen not to paint all the way to the edges, but that's completely a choice you can make. So now that I got one piece of paper painted, I'm going to set that aside. And I've got, like I said, plenty of chemistry here, so I'm going to go ahead and coat another one. This time I'm going to go all the way out to the edges. So at first I just get some chemistry on here. It's not critical that I do the brush strokes in any direction initially. Once I get some chemistry on here, then I'm going to want to go the 2 directions with my brush strokes. So I go this direction and I go this direction. The chemistry is pretty safe. If you want to, you can use latex gloves when you're doing this, or if you don't paint out to the edges, you simply don't have to worry about touching the chemistry. But it's relatively safe chemistry. It's sold without any particular warnings. So there I've got a couple sheets of paper coated now, one with white borders and one completely covered. And now what we're going to do is we're going to hang these up to dry, or you can just set them out on a table to dry. But you need to do this under dim light. So you're going to put it in a room where you can turn off the lights. We don't want any sunlight reaching this paper because the sunlight is what's going to make our image in the next step. We're now going to hang our paper up to dry. I've got a little clothesline here in my dark room, but you can hang this up anywhere in a room where you can dim the lights. So these are the 2 sheets of paper that I've coated, and we're just going to hang them up to dry. If you're in a tremendous hurry to dry these out so that you can make the prints, you can use a heat gun or a hair dryer and on a low setting actually dry these out manually if you choose. So when our paper is finally dry, we're going to make our print in the sunshine. So you don't have to have full sunshine for this to work. You'll get a sharper image if the sun is very bright and there's no clouds in the sky. But as long as it's pretty bright outside, it's really the UV light that makes this thing work. So what I've got here is I've got a tray where I'm going to place my paper and make my image here. So just so I can do this up in the house, I put my dried paper in a dark bag so it wouldn't get exposed to light until I was ready. But this is not really super critical. You don't have to be so careful about it. Just avoid direct sunlight until you're actually ready to make the picture. So I've taken a piece of my dried paper and I'm just putting it on a lid of a plastic lid here so I have kind of a work surface. And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I've decided to try and print some feathers here. So I'm going to put some feathers on this piece of paper and I'm just going to do 2 feathers and see how it comes out. Now, one of the things you can do is you can take a piece of glass, just take a piece of glass out of a picture frame or something, and if you lay this on top, it just holds your objects in contact with the paper, and it'll be a little bit sharper, especially if it's kind of a cloudy day. So now we're ready to take our paper out into the sunshine. So here we go onto the patio, and I'm just going to put my paper along with my feathers down on the sidewalk here, and you're going to wait probably about, depending on how bright the sun is, somewhere between 3 and 7 minutes. And what's going to happen is you're going to see the color of the paper slowly change from this kind of bright yellowy green color. Gradually it's going to change to a darker blue-green, and it's going to be a very gradual change. But 3 to 7 minutes should be a good amount of time. So we'll come back in just a moment. Alright, I don't know if it's evident from the video, but the color of the paper has changed a little bit here. I have a reflection from something. And so once the paper is turned a little bit darker green, maybe even blue-green, but just a little bit darker green, you're probably ready to try developing the picture. So developing is really super easy. All we're going to do is we're going to take the glass off of this thing, and we're going to knock off the feathers. And as you can see, we already have an image, but we're not all the way there yet. What we do is just put it in any old tray and then just pour water on it. Okay, this can be water from a hose. It can be just a tray full of water, and magically all that yellowish color turns to a lovely blue at this point. Okay, and all you're going to do, this is just plain old water, all we're going to do is just wash this until all of the yellowy part is gone out of the lighter parts where the feathers were. So just washing this back and forth, and as you can see, we've got ourselves a beautiful cyanotype image here, and it's that easy. At this point, we just take our piece of paper and hang it up to dry somewhere, or lay it on a paper towel to dry out, and you're done.